You don't have to go out and buy everybody drinks. You can you can buy yourself
Hmm.
drinks. Um, you can get a young lady you're chatting up drinks. But I would I had this thing. I don't know why. I think it was just because I was young and getting money at the time, but I would go out, man, and I was like, I'm still wild like this, but I would just be like, woo, shots for everybody, man. And I would get the bill at the end of the night. And you guys won't even believe me if I told you what I spent probably every weekend for about 3 years of my
Hmm.
life. But again, like I said, I mean, I was still in school making, I mean, at that time, I think I was making like 50, maybe 55 grand a year at
Mm.
24. You couldn't
Yeah.
tell me, yo, like I was Jay-Z. I was Master P in
Right.
my mind.
Live from the streets of Washington, D.C., on the corner where sports and culture meets hip hop. Sharing stories of the DMV and spitting fire for the whole damn country. This is First and Told with Chad Ricardo and Darrell Bucknight.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. First and Told the podcast. I'm Chad Ricardo, and that right there is my main man, Darrell Bucknight. Each and every week, we look to bring you the biggest, baddest, best guest in the DMV. D. Today, no different.
No different. No different at all. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys who we have on the show today. We got Travis Thomas. Travis Thomas is a DMV media mogul who everybody in the DMV knows, and he keeps us in the know about everything. Thomas most recently hosted DC Sports Live and Wizards Extra on NBC Sports Washington, and his own midday Saturday radio show on 106.7 The Fan. You all know that radio station. He can currently be heard 9 a.m. to noon, Monday through Friday, solo by himself on the Team 980, the official home of my Washington football team. Chad's jealous of that team, so I'm just gonna throw that out there. So without further ado, Travis Thomas, welcome to First and Told. We're happy to have you.
Wow.
That's
How am I
what's up.
supposed to follow that intro up? I guess I would say I'll mail you guys a check, but the way the post office is running nowadays, I'll just PayPal it or Venmo it or something. Thank you for that intro.
Oh, of course.
Look, listen, Trav, that's why I just get out of the way and let Darrell handle it. He's the real journalist on the panel here, so he handles all of the research and whatnot. Look, bro, thank you for stopping through, big homie in the building.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, I was honored to get the invite. I told you that what you have done for student athletes in the area is incredible. I, you and I have talked about this off air, but I believe in giving people their flowers while we can, right? And so
Uh-huh.
I don't think you get enough credit, in my personal opinion. So I try to make sure I big up you any chance I get. We're definitely gonna have you on my show as soon as possible. I don't even want to do it on the phone or on Zoom, bro. I
Yeah.
gotta have you in studio in the flesh, baby. So
Well,
I think what you do is incredible, and I was honored to get the invite.
well, thank you very much, brother. We love the kids, right? We love the kids, so I appreciate you. Look, Trav, like I said, we're gonna get to the hard part of this because I hear that Darrell has some really tough interview questions for you. We'll get to that in just a moment, but we like to integrate the music, the genre, the culture into all of our segments here. So before that, give me your top five musical artists that you're listening to right now.
Oh, well, listen. So I'm an old curmudgeon in the sense that the top five I'm listening to right now is the top five I've been listening to forever. Like,
My man.
I'm one of those people, not that I don't enjoy new artists, but I'll consume them and they'll say, okay, I respect a Travis Scott, or I really like this new artist. And then I'll kind of go back in my hole to what I was listening to. In no particular order, I'll rattle off my top five musicians that I constantly listen to. James
Here we
Brown,
go.
for sure.
Oh.
James Brown's a big inspiration to me, so I listen to him as much as possible. Jay Z, I would say, is up there. Prince is up there for sure. What is that? Three. Jimi Hendrix. I listen to a lot of Hendrix, and then Bob, probably Bob Marley. A combo of either like This is such a wide range. Bob Marley or the Locks, I would say.
Wow.
Wow.
How's that for
Wow.
range?
Wow. Look, bro, I got to tell you, like, again, we do this every week. I love that list, bro. I feel like you cover the span of everything, you know what I'm saying, the musical genres there.
Yeah, I need some more rock, I think. I respect rock a lot, and I have a lot of friends that are into especially classic rock. And I like Tom Petty, David Bowie,
Mm.
obviously Stones and Beatles and all that stuff, but I should probably listen to it more. But I was just raised on like Motown and classic soul and Parliament, and so that stuff's kind of like embedded in me. And then we're like aged. Our boy
Right? Yeah,
DB's a little younger,
yeah.
but we were raised to like Jay Z's and Wu Tang's and that era. So I listened to a lot of that era of rap as well. But I really like the new stuff.
100%. Look, Travis said every week because Jay Z has been on just about everybody's list that we interview, and I have a picture of Jay Z behind me, and I tell people every week that, but Darrell told me last week that you can't see it, so there's no point. But what I do want to talk about. Classic rock, right? You can't see Jay-Z. That's okay. Classic rock. I host, little known fact about me, and then we'll get to this, is that I host bar and bat mitzvahs, when we're not in the middle of a pandemic. And classic rock, when we start talking about Journey, when we start talking about, all of that stuff, look, that stuff, maybe not my top 5, but that makes it into my top 10 as well. What's your favorite classic rock album?
Oh gosh, I mean, listen, probably from my age group, like Nirvana. I listened to a lot of Nirvana. That was like my middle school era, and that grunge era was just so big during that time. Green Day, same thing. That Green Day Dookie album is still in heavy rotation on all my playlists. I look, we're old enough now. I guess you could call that classic rock.
I'm with it. Look, you can never go wrong with Journey, and I am a huge fan. I think that my favorite song is Sweet Caroline. You can't beat Sweet Caroline out there at a bar by mitzvah. But D, I'm gonna get out of your way. You go right ahead.
You know what, Chad? Before we get to Travis, who name one song by the group Parliament?
Me or Chad?
Chad.
Why are you doing this when we got guests? We've got guests
because
in the room,
you like to make fun of me for being 8 years old and not knowing the music that you think I.
Is this what we're doing to each other now?
This is it.
How about Parliament is led by Travis? Back me up. Parliament is led by George Clinton, right?
He's good.
There we go. And so, Atomic Doll.
He got it.
Okay.
He got it, DB.
My man.
Well,
There it is.
First song that came to my mind was Flashlight, but all right, we'll
Well, look, whatever. Try to, you know what I'm saying? I got you.
All right, yeah, you
hit
did.
the shot, dog.
You
hit
did.
the shot.
Took a curve, but okay.
Yeah. It's a corner 3. It's a corner 3.
Well, Travis, I wanna start here because you cover sports in the DMV. You cover all these teams and athletes in the DMV, but what I think people forget or fail to realize is that DC is the media capital of the world. And there are so many stories to tell and so many pictures to paint. And to be a journalist in the DC area and covering these athletes on a daily basis, I can imagine it's an honor and a privilege. So what does it mean to you that in a way you represent these individuals and their stories and telling their stories? What does that mean to you, and how have you come into this space to say, hey, I'm an extension of these athletes who come to me and tell these stories? What does that mean to you?
Well, for me, it's an honor and a privilege, but it has shifted over my career. So when I first started, I was a field producer, meaning I would go to the practices, I would go to the games, and I would put the microphone in front of the players and the coaches' faces. Mm-hmm. And it was a day-to-day grind. I was basically I was pretty much a reporter without the glory of being on camera, like reporters are. But that was the job I was doing. It was just strictly behind the scenes. And so I would bring it back. to the station, and the producer in charge and whoever the sports broadcaster was that night would take it from there and run with it. So that's how my career started. But it taught me the art of the interview. It taught me how to really cut to the chase and ask what you're asking and get the answer that you need. And if you don't, to keep pressing. To be honest with you, when I say the art of the interview, it taught me how to listen. I think sometimes, especially young journalists, they're not really listening. They're just waiting to talk again, or waiting to, maybe they have the question in the next question in their head, and they're just waiting for the person to stop talking so they can ask it. So in doing it where I wasn't in charge of the actual content of what went out, so to speak, it really taught me to listen. And if the athlete or the coach didn't answer me, ask a follow-up. So I made sure I got that sound. So that's how my career started. Eventually, I did get on camera, and then it was completely different. I still had to obviously interview a player or a coach the same way that I learned, and listening was very important. But I had to figure out how to be more conversational, like you guys. You put the guest at ease. That's why you get all the trade secrets, right? People tell you everything because you make them feel comfortable. I had to learn how to really do that at that point in my career. And now it's shifted because this is going to sound corny, but I really do feel like young Vito, voice of the young people, where like these people call my show every day and want to talk to me and want to know my opinion, and they want to chop it up about whatever team. And so, I mean, I get calls. The thing with technology now, it's not just DC teams. I mean, I get calls from all over the place. And I had a call the other day. Someone asked me about the Oklahoma Sooners. And so, luckily I knew a little something about their new quarterback, so we could talk.
Mr. Caleb Williams in the building.
But that's what I mean. Maybe I get a call every blue moon about NASCAR or golf. So, my ability to interview and represent people has shifted in my, I guess now 15 years in the game. And you have to, evolve or die, man. You have to be able to change with not just the times, but wherever your career takes you. Because this game is, you guys know, it's a unique game. Let's just call it unique. Right?
Right.
And you have to be able to shift and change. And those who are able to do that are the most successful. So that's, I hope I answered your question, but I just feel like it's shifted. And now I feel like more like I represent a mass of people, as opposed to just trying to tell a story.
Right. And you know what? It's funny you bring that up. You talked about, as a young reporter, putting a microphone in somebody's face and then listening for that answer and having to ask a follow-up and kind of getting all these tips that you may not learn in the classroom, but you have to learn almost on the fly and on the go. You have to improvise sometimes. And along those lines, you led perfectly into my next question was, when did you know, or did you know really, that you wanted to go into media when you were younger? What was it that drew you to the profession, and what ultimately led you to say, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life?
It was the realism that I didn't have a body like you, DB. I mean, I'm just being honest, dude. I went to a small school, Southern Maryland Athletic Conference down in St. Mary's County. And, I mean, I played power forward, and I've probably been 6'3" since middle school. I don't think I think I hit my growth spurt and then it just stopped. So in middle school, I was built like Shaq, but I didn't have game. And so I eventually developed my game. And I think when I got to high school, I was a pretty decent player. But I was a I was a power forward. I was a post player. This was way before stretch fours, bro. Like that didn't even exist.
Right.
So, I'm working on my dream shake, like my post moves, pivot foot up and under, 15-footer jump hook with either hand. I mean, I don't know. So eventually, it was like the realization that power forwards are 6'10", and
Right, right. 7 inches
like
taller.
yeah, like for my body type, I should be a guard, and I have
Right,
post skills. So
right.
um, and same thing with football. I had a couple. I actually had a high school coach tell me, if you took the weight room serious and you bulked up, you'd probably be a pretty good tight end or a safety. And I just was like, whatever, dude. I'm the next To. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, please. And I was far from that. I also played lacrosse, but I got
Oh,
into
okay.
lacrosse too late, I think, to really be any good. All my friends were really good, like went
Hmm.
on D1 scholarships, a lot of them
Hmm.
for lacrosse. So it was kind of like that. It was like, all right, I'm not going to go pro, and I'm not going to get a scholarship either.
Hmm.
So sports is all I love, all I know. That's my passion. What can I do? And I still don't, even with 2 kids, I'm still not the most patient guy you've ever met. So I knew coaching probably wasn't realistic for me. And so I just said, I just kind of went back to my personality, and I was just like, I've never been shy at all.
Hmm.
I was always a kid like, you guys remember being in class and the teacher saying, okay, who's got the answer? Who wants to come up here and take a crack at it even?
Right.
I would always be like, I will.
Raise
Like,
your
I
hand.
didn't care. Um, I was like class clown. I was just like, I've always kind of had a big personality and small town dream. So it was like, listen, I'm going to get out of here and go pursue broadcasting and see what happens. And the rest is history.
That
Awesome.
is what's up. This is the First and Told podcast. Darrell Balknight, I'm Chad Ricardo. This week's guest, DMV broadcast GOAT himself, Mr. Travis Thomas. Travis, look, bro, first of all, let me comment there. For myself personally, when I cover the student athletes, they ask me about myself and my play. I was very similar to you. I tell them that I got into this when I realized that I was far better at covering sports than I was at actually playing them. So I definitely feel you on that, bro.
Yeah. I mean, I think now, though, it's important, and I think we're both doing it. You're doing it at a much higher level than me. I have to get better at this. But I
Stop
think
it.
I think now times have changed enough to where kids should aspire to do this.
Right.
You and I kind of, I don't want to sound mean and say we settled for it, but it wasn't our first play,
Sure.
right?
Right.
I think now with all the content out there and all the channels and the platforms and the YouTubes and I mean everything,
Hmm.
Riverside, right? Zoom,
Yeah.
everything that's out there available. Um, Kids should aspire to do this, and that should be the play one. And I think you and I represent hope and possibility, particularly for kids of color. Um, and so, I want to represent that and be that. I think I do that with my actions, but I want to be more hands on, and I definitely will be leaning on you for help and guidance on how to do that.
Well, look, bro, you know what I'm saying, we're having a really fun time here and everything, but all jokes and all seriousness, we are kicking off a media training platform for the youth. So once we're rolling with that, and even through the planning process, we will reach out to you, bro, because we would look, the kids need words from individuals like you. So we'll get to that. But look, bro, here's what I want to talk to you about, right? So in one of our conversations that we had, I was amazed by you because you were talking to me about how at our old network, how you were hosting, maybe a hockey show here, and then you were hosting a baseball, talking about baseball, talking about football, basketball, etc. Now you're working in radio, you've worked in television, you've done the videography side and whatnot as well. For those aspiring journalists out there that are right now who maybe one day want to be in your shoes, why is being so versatile and being able to do it all, why is that important? How did it help you?
That's what's kept me in the game, bro. Um, I'll give you a very recent story that is the most practical of an example I can give. And it's like all of us, 2020 happened, pandemic hit, and these companies made some tough decisions. and let a lot of people go. And I was one of them, and a lot of my peers were several people as well that were let go. And a lot of my peers, um, I mean, to use a sports analogy, had one pitch.
Sure.
They were just on camera, or some of them were just producers. Um, the reality is my versatility allowed me to work throughout the pandemic. I was not on camera or on microphone um, for a little over 6 months, and I was still working. I was still able to produce, and I produced at several different spots along the way to keep a paycheck coming in and it keep my producer behind the scenes skills sharp as a Gensu blade. And when the opportunity presented itself, when things were, uh, we were starting to see a light at the end of the tunnel in terms of a shift of power, we'll call it, in the White House. Some vaccine,
Yeah,
positive
man.
news, and some places started opening up the books again for some on-air talent, and it was right place, right time, and hard work and preparation met, and I got the opportunity at the Team 980 to get back on air. But make no mistake, I mean, my background in producing literally kept the lights on for me.
What do you what's radio like for you, right? My first job in entertainment, this was in 2004 something. So and again, a lot of people that are listening right now, they were in middle school, but for you and I, right? My first job in media was in radio, and I remember at that point, you know what I'm saying, I'm wet behind the ears. It was challenging at that point. I worked from 7 to midnight, and I was like the only person in the studio. And sometimes I would feel alone out there. I didn't have, my show wasn't popular, Travis. I didn't have a ton of people calling. What's it like for you being in that box of a studio?
Well, listen, all of this stuff for me feels like the Super Bowl every day.
That's woo,
Um,
man.
I mean, it could be. I'll give you I mean, I've done it all now, right? I've done podcast, radio, print, I mean, TV. I've done it all, man, and all of it to me feels like an opportunity to make your mark. I don't care what it is. We opened this interview by talking about music. I actually
Yeah,
kind of
man.
got that mentality from listening to various musicians in interviews over the years. No one in particular. All of them kind of have this mantra of, listen, I could be playing Madison Square, or I could be
100.
playing a small venue with 50 people. I'm going to give the same show and the same passion and the same energy. And so I think I've just really taken that mentality into our game where uh, radio is just another opportunity, another blessing for me to do what I love, man. So, um, TV, radio, podcast, I treat them all like the biggest show or the biggest moment or the biggest opportunity of my life because, quite frankly, it may very well be.
You know what, and Travis, this is a question that Chad he kind of already brought up to you, but it's something I want to elaborate on, and that's the idea of people my age or a little younger than me getting into media, getting into some sort of avenue where they can still be involved in sports, but maybe not on the actual athletic side. What we do behind the camera, in front of the camera, interviewing people. Um, what is your aside from being versatile, as we just said, what is your advice for somebody who wants to break into this field and do what it is that you do? And also, what advice would you give your younger self, knowing all that you know now? What advice would you give to your younger self um, about this field, really?
Boy, I'm going to make you proud and disappoint you all in one answer. I'll make you proud with what I tell the younger folks, DB. You have to be really strategic. And, here's what I mean. So, when I decided to do this and I got in the game, I, like many young people, wanted to be on camera. And I quickly realized how competitive and how crowded that was, right? And one thing I noticed along the way early too, I think I was an intern. This was listen to me, Chad. This was back when interns didn't get paid, okay, DB.
There we go.
And
There we go.
you know, and I just remember like on purpose, like just out grinding the hell out of interns. Like, I mean, my peers were on their phones, they weren't engaged, and I was just like, even though I'm not getting paid, this is a job. I'm taking this as a job. And when I say be strategic, here's what I'm saying. I realized, I just need to get a job here. I don't care if it's sweeping the floors or whatever it is. I need to get a job in this building, show these people what I'm about, and then once I infiltrate the building, I can come up. And through the grace of God, for me, producing found me because I didn't know I knew producers existed. I couldn't tell you what they
Mhm.
did. And eventually, um, I just grinded hard, and I got offered a part-time weekend sports producer position at WJZ Channel 13 in Baltimore.
Oh, right.
And I was a junior. I was a junior at Towson, and it was a huge honor. And I did that for a year, along with going to school. And by the time I graduated from Towson, they had offered me a full-time
Mhm.
job at
Wow.
WJZ as a sports producer. And I knew I made it. And I knew I made it because I loved what I was doing. I was learning something. I was learning how to produce and write and edit. That was fantastic. And but what I also didn't lose sight of was my ultimate goal. And so, listen, it allowed me to get in the game. Eventually, I left that job and got another producer job at Fox 5 in DC, and then ended up at Comcast Sportsnet
Mhm.
at the
Mhm.
time, which later became NBC Sports Washington. And it was probably a decade, close to a decade in the making before I got my first chance on air. But I had built a resume, I built so many contacts. Um, I knew what I was doing,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And I produced for so many on-air people. I could almost formulate exactly what I wanted to do when I got that opportunity with my own take on it, my own swag, my own sauce. And so by the time I like got my chance, it was on because I was so
Mhm.
polished. And so that's what I would tell young people is don't just be, sometimes we have to zoom out a little bit. I think we're so caught up in like, no, I want to do
Mhm.
this. And that's it with an iron fist. Yeah, you can maybe get to that eventually, but look at different paths, look at different ways you can get to that ultimate goal. And you know what? Sometimes along the path, you might like what you're doing. I could have easily just been like, yo, I'm cool with being a producer.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I'm one of those people like, I mean, I brought up Travis Scott earlier. I kind of feel like that type of person where like I want to make beats and rap.
Mhm.
Like I like producing and being on camera, right?
Right.
I like radio and podcast or TV or whatever. So that's why I would tell young people is be more strategic in your attack of your goal. Here's where I'm going to disappoint you, and I'll do it really, really quickly because I'm embarrassed. But it made me who I am. I would tell the younger me, you don't have to buy the bar when you're 24, 25 years old. You got your first job, you're making good money. You don't have to go out and buy everybody drinks. You can you can buy yourself
Mhm.
drinks. Um, you can get a young lady you're chatting up drinks. But I would I had this thing. I don't know why. I think it was just because I was young and getting money at the time. But I would go out, man, and I was like, I'm still wild like this, but I would just be like, woo, shots for everybody, man. And I would get the bill at the end of the night. And you guys won't even believe me if I told you what I spent probably every weekend for about 3 years of my
Mhm.
life. But again, like I said, I mean, I was still in school making, I mean, at that time, I think I was making like 50, maybe 55 grand a year at
Mhm.
24. You couldn't
Yeah.
tell me, yo, like I was Jay-Z. I was Master P in
Right.
my mind, right? So, I would tell my younger self, chill out on the not necessarily the partying, because I think that helped mold me and mature me
Mm.
ultimately many years later. But I would say chill out on buying everybody's
Right,
drink.
right.
Bro. Look, Travis, listen. You and I, bro, like we have so many more similarities than I ever knew that we did. Darrell and I, we had this conversation offline because I produce content as well, and like you, I became a producer because I had these aspirations of being on air. And for the longest time, the only time that I could get on screen was to produce the content myself. But you develop a passion for doing it that way, and then just like you, bro, for many years, I spent all of my money at the club on the weekends, brother. I should have a name a table named after me at the park right now. Luckily, my wife came in and she ended all of that. But you know,
Well, listen, God bless her. I mean, I know how hard it was for mine to corral me. What's funny is, my wife and I were actually were friends forever. Like we were just tight,
Mm.
and so she knew what she was getting into. But it's crazy because my wife was really wild too,
mm,
and we're both like we just talk sometimes, especially when I have two toddlers, man. They're driving us nuts, especially with the pandemic and all that stuff. I mean, you're just cooped up all the time with
yeah,
a 3 and a 1 year old. So, we talk, my wife and I, about how like remember when we used to like go out and just get wasted and like stay
bro.
out all night and eat jumbo slice and like now it's just such a different world. But I am glad that I'll tell you real quick, Chad. I have a couple buddies, man, that they didn't go the route you and I did, right? And
Mhm.
I remember being in college and they were bunned up. Nothing wrong with that, but they were booed up and like they got married immediately right after school. And man, a lot of them cats are getting divorced now and
Right,
going out every night and partying. And it's like, yo,
because they didn't have that time.
yeah. And it's like that's not really the look when you 40. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying?
Hmm.
So I'm glad. I'm glad I wouldn't have it any other way. Hey, and it doesn't surprise me. Me and you had that in common, man. Real recognize real. You already know.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. We're brothers from another mother. D,
You
go
know,
right ahead, bro.
Travis, it's funny you bring up the being multifaceted in several different areas. And not just being comfortable in air, but being comfortable behind the camera and working in an audio board and producing and writing for broadcast and for print and being able to edit or do graphics. And I think that's something that the same advice you just gave is something that I learned immediately in high school when I knew I wanted to get into this field. In college, studying with certain professors who kept pounding it and pounding it and pounding it in my head that you just have to be diverse in your skill set. And fortunately, I think it's safe to say that I'm good in so many different areas. An area I am not good at is filling out my March Madness bracket, and that's been evidenced this year. And I know that you've been talking a lot about college basketball. As of today's recording, you talked about college basketball and the Maryland Terrapins on your show this morning, about recruiting and about the tournament, obviously the big dance, and should Maryland move on from Mark Turgeon this year or after this season? So really, it's an open question. I just want to get your thoughts on the tournament. What do you I'm sure you've been surprised, like a couple of like we've been with a couple teams that have upset other teams. But what is your overall takeaway as we move into the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight?
Yeah, I mean, my bracket was over before it started, like many others. I mean, listen, uh, no Duke.
Hmm.
Kansas just got shellacked by USC. Third worst loss in school history for
Hmm.
Kansas. UNC's out. Um, I, I mean, like this is insanity. Like I don't know what's happening. Like you have Oral Roberts and I mean they just lost, but Abilene Christian beat
Right.
Texas? Like, what is this alternate universe we live in? Look, man, it's called March Madness. For the first time in my lifetime, this is true
Hmm.
madness. I mean, like, usually there's an upset or two. You get a Sister Jean, Loyola Chicago in the Final Four. You
Hmm.
get a George Mason in the Final Four. We get it. But like this is insanity,
Yeah.
bro. Like all these teams getting knocked off in these mid-major schools. I don't even think I'm gonna say we need to rename this. They're not mid-major schools anymore. Like I think these big schools are in real trouble, man. I mean, I really do. I think this stuff's here to
Hmm.
stay. I really do. People are trying to put it on. Well, it's because we didn't have a tournament last year, and it's still a COVID time, and it's just a strange time. That may be true, and certainly asked VCU about that,
Hmm.
right? And
Mhm.
they didn't even get a chance to play in this
Right.
tournament, unfortunately. But I honestly just think these smaller schools are here to stay, man. And these kids play together 3 or 4 years. There are no one and dones at these schools, and when you get in a tournament like this, that matters, and that experience matters, and that chemistry matters, and that maturity matters,
Hmm.
and these teams are just literally knocking down giants left and right.
Yeah. That's one of the things with basketball, right? That's one of the things about basketball compared to football. In football, you don't have the underdog knocking off the big dogs, and mainly that's offensive defensive line play. You know what I'm saying? The smaller team, you can't win in the trenches. I will give Darrell Balknight credit though. A couple of weeks ago, he alluded to the idea that the older, more experienced teams might have more success against those older teams when it came tournament time. So we give credit to DB for knowing his stuff there. Travis, I want to take you because this has all been fun and games and lollipops and rainbows and whatnot. I want to go to the dark side for just a moment here, okay? You alluded to this earlier, and so I'm going to bring it back. 2020 was a challenging time for many of us here, for you, for myself, for the same reasons and whatnot. This media game is tough, fam. It's tough. Like you can be on top in one moment, and then you can be rediscovering yourself the very next moment. And it's important to be able to just keep going and knowing that you will be where it is that you're supposed to be. What has been the darkest moment for you throughout your career? And what did you say to yourself during that moment in order to just keep going?
It wasn't 2020 for me. I lost my mother suddenly in 2009, and it was at a time where I think I was on the precipice of doing something really special then, and that was a lot earlier than I guess you could say maybe 5 years ago now. I really burst on the scene here in this market on air, but man, I was really close in 2008. I was doing radio in Baltimore, and I really had got offered a afternoon drive gig for radio, which would have been huge for my career, especially at that age. I was 27 years old. I mean,
Wow.
that was a game
Mm.
changer.
Wow. Yeah.
That's a job probably at that point I would have did for probably 15, 20 years.
Absolutely.
And you know, my mother passed away suddenly, like crazy, and I decided to leave the industry altogether. And I mentioned earlier in the interview, I'm the only child, and so it was so devastating to me and my father. And I said, "Look, Dad, I'm going to move home back to St. Mary's County." He had a family business of school bus transportation and transport. I was like, "Listen, like, teach me the family business. I'm going to do that. You retire, like right off in the sunset. I got this, right?" And it was just like the noble thing to do. It was the right thing to do. I didn't hesitate, and so I turned down the job. I quit. I was at Comcast Sportsnet at the time, freelancing. I quit that. It was a really tough time. Fox 5 in DC, I quit that. Sports freelance as well there, sports producing. I moved back home and I drove buses, dog, for
Get the wow.
I drove buses for like 4 years. And that was a difficult time in the sense of that transition. It wasn't the
Sure.
decision I made. The decision
Yeah.
was the right choice. It allowed my dad and I to heal together. He's since remarried and all good. But it wasn't the choice to walk away. That was easy. It was like the transition going from I'm right here to my dream.
Hmm.
I lose my mother, which is like, I mean, it was my worst nightmare.
Sure.
It was my biggest fear. I had to face that, and then now I have to study and get a CDL and drive buses, and it was like it was a unique time for me, and it was very difficult. Um, and I got through it. And then here's what's crazy. So I go to a local cable station in my hometown. They're not even still around anymore. And I go in and I say, hey, I have a transportation company, me and my father. It's a really unique story. Um, I'd like to know how much for a commercial, right? I want to put a commercial together myself. And all I want to know is how much to air it. I'll
Sure.
do all the production. And you should have saw these should have saw these people's faces. Like, who is this black unicorn that just walked in our studio?
Right.
Um, and then so, long story short, I ended up talking to the boss, and they offered me a job to kind of do what you were doing, bro, like on a much lower scale than you. But I was just covering Southern Maryland high school sports, one man band style. Was making a little
Real.
bit of money, but it was something for me to keep doing my passion. And my former bosses up here in the D.C. area and Baltimore got wind that I was back in the game again. This is when like you would post your episodes on like Facebook or something, right? And
I know that game.
yeah, and like one of my bosses saw it and called me. It's like, yo, you back in the game?
Wow.
And I was like, yeah. And next thing you know, I was driving a bus 9 to 5, and then I would get off and drive up to Baltimore and do a 2 hour radio shift and drive back to St. Mary's County, which is a 2 hour. DB knows that drive. So do you, Chad, because of
Yeah.
Riken.
Yeah.
And eventually, I came back. But that's an example of darkness, but also whoever you believe in. I happen to believe in God. But whoever you believe in, even if it's the universe, can guide you to where you're supposed to be and what you were made to do if you allow that, if you open up your heart for that. And that's really all I ever did. Everything I've ever done in my life, I try to be righteous by, and I don't f over people. I don't mistreat people. I try to live my life right. I don't need to look over my shoulder. I don't have beef. I don't cheat. I don't lie. And so ultimately, if you do that, your blessings will just be in abundance. And so here I am now, and we'll see what happens. I'm like Drake. What's next?
What's next?
I don't know.
And that's actually going to be my next question. But before we get there, was there a moment there in which you felt like it was over? Because again, now you've come back to the game and you've given so much, not just to the athletes that you cover, but to the people who look up to you. For individuals like us who look up to you. So was there a moment? Did you think it was over? Did you think it was over? And how'd you flip the switch to come back?
I didn't think it was over in the traditional like, woe is me. I thought it was over because I said it was over.
That's real.
I just was like, I was just done. I was like, I need to, I left out the part about my dad basically was Brett Favre at the end of his career. Like, my dad refused. Listen to me, Chad. Refused to retire. Bro, I learned the business. I had expanded it. I mean, I couldn't make any more plays than what I did in the 4 years I worked with my dad, for my dad. And he was like the Black Terminator, bro. He was just like, no, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. And so that made my decision a lot easier too to come back because it was like this guy's never gonna retire. He actually just retired like last
Wow.
year,
That's real.
right
Huh.
before
That's real.
COVID. So 2019 he retired. Isn't that
And,
crazy? Think about
and
that.
that, bro. Yeah, yeah. You would still be there right now. And again, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That
So
is that's
I
what's
never
up.
had a woe is me. It's over. It was just like I had made up my mind. I was just gonna, run the family business and just kind of go back home. And then God said, "Nah, that's not your path. This is your path." And so here I am.
Here we are. First and Told podcast. Travis Thomas, DMV GOAT broadcaster in the building. This is my final question for you here, Travis. Now, you just alluded to it. What's next? You've accomplished so much already throughout your career, yet you and I were around the same age. We can do this for the next 40 years. There's so much more to do. What is next for you? And what will be that moment in which you say to yourself, bro, I made it? Whatever it is, I made it.
Okay, well, what's next is, it's two part. I think I'm almost done actually as a broadcaster. Um,
Wow.
I'd like to, my initial goal was to actually go national. Growing up, when I decided to do this, like we talked about earlier, when I realized the athletic thing wasn't going to happen, I was watching Stuart Scott, man, and
Hmm.
Dan
Stu.
Patrick and George Michael's Sports Machine and Jim Vance and seeing guys like even like Donnie Simpson, and they were local guys, but they were like national, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I like household name types, and so that's what I aspired to be. That was my first goal. I don't like, I like crossing things off, and so I'm just wired that way. It drives my wife,
When's your birthday, bro?
it drives my wife crazy. Um,
Trav, when's your birthday?
October 16th.
Okay, I'm November 17th. Like our similarities in life are so real for me. I thought maybe we were separated at birth,
Well,
but
my
go ahead.
best friend, his birthday's November 16th, so maybe that's it. We probably have a connection through that because I'm used to dealing with him. You're a Scorpio, right?
I'm a
Yeah,
Scorpio, bro. Yeah.
yeah. But I have to get national. When I'm a national broadcaster, I'll be done. However many contracts I can milk out of that, I will. I tell my agent that all the time. Like when we get there, get me as many re-signs or whatever we got to do as we can, and then I don't see me. So I turned 40 in October. I don't really see me doing this probably longer than another 5 years tops. I could probably do it within that as long as I just want to hit the national scene wherever that is, a network. And once I do that, you can start my clock. And then I really want to transition into management. And 2020 did that. 2020, I'm sitting at home, I'm unemployed, I'm watching the news, and I'm seeing our people get murdered. I'm seeing our people protest about it. I'm seeing a president that just is a racist and has no regards for the human experience. And I just felt a lack of black leadership.
It's
You
real.
know, talking to my father and my uncles who lived through the civil rights movement, they had Dr. Martin Luther King, they had Malcolm X. I mean, they had all these people, Jesse Jackson. They had all
Yeah.
these people, and I didn't feel that for us, and I'm certainly not going to become that. But I do believe uh, for something I have an expertise in and so much versatility in, and I'm so good with people, and I've always been a natural leader anyway.
It's
Um,
real.
I believe when I say I've made it will be when I'm an executive. Um,
It's real.
I don't think real change will happen until there's more of us male
Yeah.
and female, brothers and sisters in these meeting rooms. That's the key. It's not about being in front of the camera. That's cool,
No.
but the real change happens with the shot callers, and
Right.
so that's where I'm destined to be. And I want to get there honestly sooner than later. I mean, I want to get this network thing popping and do that for a little while to say I did it, and then crossing that off the list, and then I'll do the executive thing probably till I die.
That is us going from being on the menu to actually being at the dinner table. That's real.
For sure. I mean, even even ownership at some point. But I like learning things, just like my career we talked about, right? Like I want to get in the building first. So when my broadcasting career is over, I want to pivot to management. I want to learn everything I can the right way by the book, with mentors, the whole whoop de whoop, and then eventually move to that C executive level, and then who knows, if I'm making enough paper and there's opportunity for me to invest in some type of platform or something like that, I do it. But for sure, that's like the I've made it stage, and I want to
Bro,
do it while I'm young too. I'm a fly 39,
Yeah,
so
you are.
bro, I'm with you on that.
you know
Bro, look, Travis, here we are for anybody listening to this right now, First and Told podcast. You thought we were going to come on here and just talk about Washington football team and the Wizards and all of that. That right there was so dope that spoke to my soul, brother, because all of that is what is truly my passions in life as well. So, I'm all about it. D, we can do this all day, but I know you got
We
something else.
could. I mean, that was inspirational, and we gotta have at least one fly 39-year-old, and I'm glad it's Travis, and it's I don't know about Chad, but we got Travis for sure. So
so Chad, I'm up first, right? So I'm October, and then you're right behind me with the 40
I'm
40.
right behind you,
That's
bro.
what's up.
Right behind you.
That's what's
awesome.
up.
Well, Travis, here at First and Told, we have a little segment that we like to call the 2-minute drill. So basically what it is, it's a little game. We're going to have some fun. We're going to put 2 minutes on the clock. I'm going to ask you some questions, rapid fire answers, whatever comes to your mind first, fire it off. And we're going to go ahead and get started. You ready? Cool.
Let's get it.
All right. The clock is starting right now. All right. What has been your favorite game to cover so far?
Game, the Stanley Cup Finals, Caps beating the Vegas Golden Knights. Game 5 when they won. I was outside with Michael Jenkins outside of Capital One Arena. They played "Bustin' Loose" by Chuck Brown over the loudspeakers, and I watched Washington D.C. Every race, religion, creed, sexuality, absolutely party and lose their mind together. I'll never forget it, ever.
Great moment. Shout out to Michael Jenkins, by the way. What athlete was most exciting for you to interview?
Ray Lewis. And then it was such a letdown because to the local guys, he didn't give you much. But to the ESPN guys, he was Ray Lewis that we
Right.
see. So it was kind of a buzzkill.
Okay.
That same season, though, I got to interview Brett Favre and Peyton Manning that would come in and play Baltimore. That was fun. But for me, I think growing up in the area, like Ray, my first chance to interview Ray, even though it was kind of anticlimactic, it was very exciting at that time.
Still an awesome interview. What athlete were you most nervous to interview?
Oh, that's a good one. I don't know. I don't think anyone. I kind of had a little crush on Michelle Wee,
Okay.
and I got a chance to interview her, and I heard a little shakiness in the voice. Look, I played it off. I don't think she knew I was
Right.
nervous, but I heard a little like a little puberty
Right.
action
A little
in my voice.
fluctuation of the voice.
Yeah.
She's as tall as we are, right,
Yeah,
Trav?
yeah, she is tall, man, and she was real cool, and it helped calm me down a little bit, because I definitely was crushing on her, but I got the interview done and it was all good. I didn't even try to holler at her, man. I just kept it professional.
There you go. There you go. A couple more. All right. If you could play for any team that you cover, who would it be and why?
Any team that I've covered, who would it be and why? That's a great question. I'll be honest. after watching it and like being a part of Robert Griffin the
Hmm.
third here in
Hmm.
DC, boy, quarterback for Washington football
Okay.
team is pretty rock star
Hmm.
status,
Yeah.
bro. And I don't think I realized that until I got to cover RG3 and seeing like what that was
Uh
like. Oh my God, Dwayne Haskins really kind of blew that because I when they drafted
huh.
him, I said this dude, if he keeps his head on straight and he works hard, he has a real chance to be a rock star in this city, especially being
Right.
from here. Look at Chase
Right.
Young, he's
Yep.
doing it. So yeah, I would say quarterback for Washington football team.
Cool. All right, couple more. Yes or no, is a hot dog a sandwich?
No,
Good answer. And final wait, why?
I mean it's a hot dog. It's like its own
Okay.
category.
All right. And finally, how can our listeners connect with you?
Social media, Travis Thomas Experience. Pretty simple to find me, easy to find me. And I'm a normal guy. I'm out here. Like I'm in PG County all the time, in Northeast DC all the time. I'm at games. Uh, Before I had kids, I was at a lot more sports bars, but hopefully, as I get a little older and I can get babysitters up in here, I'll be at sports bars again,
Cool.
and I'm at the sports book making bets. I'm around, man. Like I may go to bed early, but I'm out and about though during the day and the evening and happy hour range. Come up and get at me, man. I'm a cool
Cool.
guy.
The flyest 39-year-old
Bro.
on this podcast.
Travis Thomas, bro, as you alluded to, the Travis Thomas experience has been absolutely
Oh
phenomenal,
yeah.
bro. I cannot wait until, you know what I'm saying, we get beyond this and we can hang out and talk about more than just broadcasting. You're a great dude, bro.
We
Certainly.
definitely will. I appreciate you guys. You guys are great brothers, man. I'm a big fan of what you're doing. You already know that, Chad. And keep up the good fight, DB. It was great to meet you,
Pleasure.
bro. And as soon as we can get outside and hang out, and I would like to play ball and have you on my team so you can grab some boards and
Oh,
block
I can do that.
shots.
That'll do. Yeah, don't say anything. Don't do
Look,
not.
I won't say much, D, but Travis, just have him stand there, okay? Because that's he might be able to set a pick on somebody. He may get that done. But Travis, thank you so very much, brother. Travis Thomas Experience for Darrell Balknight. This is First and Told. Excellent.
Awesome.
You're a good
Awesome.
dude, brother.
That's great stuff, man. I appreciate you guys having
We
me,
appreciate
man.
you coming on.
First and Told.